Yeehaw, everyone, and welcome to the charity roundtable for Outlaws of Thunder Junction. I'm here with this absolutely incredible crew of outlaws joining us tonight, and we are raising donations all session long for the Trevor Project. If you want to donate in $5 increments to be entered into a draw to win prizes by the end of tonight's stream. These prizes range from Infinite Tokens prize packs through to precons from the set. Just hit Command Donate in chat and you can donate. We'll have a running tally all night and we'll be doing giveaways. But without further ado, let me introduce this rowdy crew for everyone tonight. First and foremost, new to the Charity Roundtable, we've got Nile. Nile, please let everybody know who you are, where we can find you, and what are you wanted for on Thunder Junction.
Hello, thank you for having me. I am Nile, like the river. You can find me on Twitch and Twitter and everywhere at Nile Joan Rivers. I am definitely wanted for repeated attempts at breaking Fable the Mirror Breaker out of prison. It does not belong in there. It was wrongfully accused. It is safe to unban in standard. Set him free.
Amazing. I think that is worthwhile of a wanted poster and a bounty, that's for sure. Well, returning guest for the panel tonight, we've got Bobbie-Christine joining us once again. Bobbie, welcome back. Why don't you let us know who you are, where we can find you, and what are you wanted for on Thunder Junction?
Hello, everybody. So happy to be here. I'm out here with Magic Kids, Birds of Paradise. You can find me, you know what? Just Google Magic the Gathering Bobbie-Christine and it all shows up. I'm kind of proud of that fact.
What a flex.
Out here on Thunder Junction, it's a dangerous plains and I'm wanted because I have kidnapped all the Chihuahuas and because I want to keep them safe. And so I've stolen everyone's Chihuahua and now I'm wanted because they're all mine in my little house.
Wow, so wanted for grand theft then, or is that a small crime? Get it? Because they're small dogs.
You're good. Yeah. You've done this before.
Okay, well, another new face to the Charity Roundtable, Jeremy. Jeremy, why don't you let us know who you are, where we can find you, and what are you wanted for on Thunder Junction?
Hey, everybody, I'm Jeremy Noell. You can find me on the website formerly known as Twitter, because I refuse to call it X, at Jeremy Noell, and Instagram at Jeremy Noell MTG, and Star City Games Commander Versus, obviously. And you can bet your bottom dollar that I am going to be trying to steal everybody's cards with Villainous Wealth as much as I possibly can. So,
it's like they gave you a card.
They gave me a card. They made an entire deck around that card and then gave it to me to preview, and I'm very happy about that.
It must be nice to be so renowned for a single card, right?
I'm so happy. I think the thing that I'm most happy about is now that there is a different version, a different art for Villainous Wealth that I may possibly be able to get an artist proof of. Because the artist who did the original version does not do artist proofs. Just doesn't sell them. So
wow. So exciting developments. Well, thank you for being here, Jeremy. And last but not least, my perennial partner in crime, Clay. Welcome once again. Why don't you let everybody know who you are, where we can find you, and what are you wanted for on this plane?
Hi, friends. I'm Claybee. I'm part of the C&C Power Hour here. Right now we do these charity roundtables. So every time a new set comes out, we get friends from the community to come together, talk about it, talk about some cards, the art, the lore, and raise money for good causes. You can find me. So there's that little profile card that our friend Andy made for me. But you can find me on Twitter and pretty much anything if you search Claybee, you'll find me. And I have never done anything wrong in my life. I've never committed a crime, and fraud would be what I would be wanted for.
I know fantastic. That, and I love you.
I have never done anything ever wrong.
Money, please.
Amazing. Well,
treasures, please. There you go.
So glad that you could once again join us. And of course, folks, I am your host for the night, Chris, your commander mechanic. Find me everywhere content is made. And I am wanted for the wanton breaking of cards from this set, as I am from every set. Honestly, they make it easier and easier, and I just keep getting away with it. Yeehaw! So tonight, we're going to discuss everything Thunder Junction, from the setting and the plane through to the cards and some of our favorites, too. So one of the things that I really want to get us started about is talking about the plane itself. This is a brand new setting for the game, Thunder Junction, and something that's kind of unique to lore-wise, the Omen paths being open and anybody being able to travel from plane to plane. What this has allowed is that we're seeing a lot of familiar faces in a new setting. So what I want to do is I want to throw it around to everybody and get your thoughts on seeing some of these familiar faces, and which one are you most excited to see come back from this set? And Bobbie, why don't we start with you? What face are you most excited to see return in this set?
Okay, well, I'm into the whole. I'm a League of Legends player at heart. Okay, so I like having my favorite in a scuba diver outfit for really no reason other than because you can. So I'm very excited for my girl Olivia, fellow redhead vampire queen, leader of the precon, of course. Just like focused on the EDH, but that's my girl, and she's leading the precon, and that is 10,000% the alt skin that I would buy in the shop. You know what I mean?
There you go. Yeah. And I think that that's a great way of describing what's going on with this set. Is like we've got some of our favorites, with a new hat, like Malibu Stacy, right? This is the alternate skin for some of these characters, and I think that honestly, I'm here for it. So glad that your girl Olivia is back in this one. Nile, how about you? What face are you most happy to see return in this set?
Yeah, so similar to Bobbie, I also love like the beach episode of a show where they're all just like, this doesn't matter, we're just playing volleyball and dressing up. And I love when Magic does it too. Like, I know that some people don't, but I do. I love that they're all wearing little hats and little boots. I think it's really cute. I am really excited about Vraska the Silencer. And honestly, I think a big part of it is just art for me. I just love the way that she's kind of just sitting there. She's turned a room full of men into stone. She's like resting her boots on one of them. That's the kind of energy I want. Like, I want it to be her,
That is queen energy right there.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Big time.
Yeah. Amazing to see Vraska back too, especially after the big story arc that she went through over the last 2 years too. Interesting to see her completed and then not completed, and now literally putting her feet up in this set. So this is very accurately like the beach episode. This seems to be the breath of fresh air after all of the drama of the last couple of years through these sets. And I've described this set kind of like Westworld for Magic characters. It's where the Magic characters are going for like a weekend, playing cowboy and robbing banks, and then they got to get back to all of their multiversal shenanigans later. So
absolutely, I love it.
I really hope she keeps the shoes.
Right. Me too, forever.
Just keep them.
Yeah, or at very least keeps the legs, right? Because for a small period there, she didn't have legs at all. So, Jeremy, how about you? Who's your favorite returning face from this set?
I think I have two. One is I'm very happy that they brought back the character, but I'm not a huge fan of the card, and that's Riku of Many Paths. Mm-hmm. I'm very happy because we haven't had a Riku card since the original, and like back in like 2011 or whatever it was. So I'm very happy that they brought Riku back, and we're seeing them again for the first time in a while. The one that I obviously love the card of is Gonti.
Yeah,
like to see Gonti coming back. I love them so much, and having this new version of it. And I really like what they did with making it so that this is the commander for the commander deck, and that's the only version. Mm-hmm. Unlike it's a new thing that they did, and they're like, here's this super awesome treatment, full frame, full art. This is the only one, and I love the art for this one, and I love the card. So I'm really happy Gonti is back.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting that the first time we see this character in years, they go from a mono black creature to now a 3-color creature too.
Yeah,
It's interesting to see this many colors be added to a character. We're used to seeing it with someone like Omnath, where every time we see them, they've got another color added to them. But it's seldom that we see multiple colors added to a character like this in their second appearance.
yeah.
Yeah, it opens us up for some awesome new decks, and I know you're super excited for it because you got that Sultai deck that this fits perfectly into.
Yeah, I bought a couple singles. It was Gonti, and it was the new Wrath from the deck. Very excited
Nice.
about that one.
Very nice, very nice. Well, Clay, just in time, wanted to ask your opinion. Who is your favorite returning character in this set?
First of all, can you hear me? Like everything back?
We can
back
go
to it. Okay, cool. So I think my favorite character coming back, I'm pretty excited. I was pretty excited to see Bruce Tarl. I'm not gonna lie. Like the some of the OG partners were really cool, but like Bruce Tarl was the one I think I was like most excited for. But Riku was also really was a really, really cool one. I was like, oh shit, like I didn't know story-wise like where or when Riku existed. You know, so that was one of those things. I was like, oh, okay, you know.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting too, because my favorite returning character is Obika in this set. You know, after seeing her in Commander Legends, not knowing where in the timeline she fits in or whenever we'd see her again, having her back here punching time again, absolutely love to see it. I'm a big fan, and she's on this plane kicking ass. And again, you absolutely love to see your favorite characters do cool stuff. Awesome. I do want to remind everybody out in the audience right now, while we have raised $130 in donations already, just a couple of minutes into this, thank you, everyone. Remember to donate in $5 increments to be entered into the draw to win everything from Infinite Tokens prize packs through to precons from Outlaws of Thunder Junction. And we are going to be doing Q&A towards the end of the session too. So if you do want to ask a question for our panel to answer, make sure to use the channel points redemption to highlight your message. It's just a single point. We've reduced that for everybody so that we can make sure that your question gets answered later tonight too. So please, yeah, perfect. See, Chris has given us an example in chat of exactly how to do that. We look forward to everybody's questions and answering all of your inquiries for this awesome group. Now, this is a really unique plane. We've talked about how it's kind of like the vacation plane for these characters that we've seen doing their day jobs for years at this point. In some cases, characters like Kumbal literally doing their day job in their original set, and then coming and being mayor on this additional plane. But we really seem to have been bombarded with the faces that we know on this plane. How do we feel kind of collectively about so many returning characters? Is it a good thing, or is it kind of overwhelming to see this many familiar names and faces in one place? Clay, how about you? How do you feel about this?
I think over a long span of time, it could get overwhelming. But I think that this is a consequence of now so many people having the ability to travel to other planes, right? Like there was this continuing conversation about the after Mark's the Machine, after the war, where are the consequences? And consequences aren't always like disasters or bad things. Like if you gave a whole bunch of people the opportunity to go to new places and do different things, they're all going to do that. And then with specifically this one where it's like, hey, do you want a blank slate? Do you want an opportunity to get in on the ground level and get power, get influence, maybe get your hands on the whole interplanar express thing that Raul's doing? I think it's kind of perfect for this, where you don't have an enfranchised world where you're going to be stepping on toes of the established characters there, right? Like this one feels perfect for it. And so like between the story, some of them are really, really silly, you know, and then some of them like make more sense as the story went, of like, oh, it's like Oko specifically like going and getting people. Some of them, like Rakdos, at first it was like, why? How did he just, you know, dip? But no, in general, I think too many sets like this could become overwhelming. But for this set in particular, I love. Give me all the legends.
Amazing. Nile, how do you feel about so many returning faces? Is this too much? Is this overwhelming, or is this nice for like something unique and different? Provided that this is going to be unique and different.
Yeah, so I don't really have a lot to say in terms of the story, as I cannot and will not read, but I do have opinions about this in terms of specifically limited gameplay. I'm not like, it's one of the things I'm not really wild about in this set is there's a lot of things that I think make the potential for like draft and sealed games to be kind of awkward, and I think having a lot of legends is one of those things. So I personally don't love it, but simultaneously I do also love seeing everyone in little boots and hats, so I'm kind of at odds with myself.
Yeah, a little torn on that one.
Yeah.
I get that. Yeah. Jeremy, how do you feel about so many returning faces?
It's very similar to what Clay said. It's just that it's interesting. It might be a bit overwhelming. I like that they kind of did it right now to start us off with, you know, basically after the big, you know, end of everything with the invasions and stuff like that. They had like a small breather with, you know, the Merzakala Manor in a little bit, and then they jumped right into here's how the Omen Paths can lead everybody to one place. And I believe from what Morrow had explained on Blogatog that it was like, this is a plan for like kind of like a once a year thing where they just gather a bunch of legendary creatures, a bunch of known faces and a bunch of new faces together. I believe that there was already talk of the Death Rally racing one next year is going to be another one of this type where it's just, here's a bunch of faces you probably know, here's a couple new faces, they're all together. So I kind of like it in that sense. But yeah, it is also overwhelming. It is just, here's a bunch of, like we said, like we haven't seen Riku in a long time, we haven't seen Obeka in a long time, and instead of it just being here's a few planeswalkers that may make the journey, it's here's like 25 legendary creatures that are from various planes and have various backstories on those planes that you may have already known about. So it gets a little overwhelming, like you know, like Clay also mentioned with like, why is Rakdos here all of a sudden? So
right. No, I think that's a perfectly fair point. And you know, if we can look forward to something like this, is it something that we're really going to look forward to? If it is one of these sets where we've got, like Clay just pointed out in chat, 43 legendary creatures in this set. And remember, this isn't a commander targeted set. This is a standard set to have 43 legendary creatures in it. Jeremy?
I think this might be one of those things too, where instead of doing another Commander Legends set, we'll get something like this. I don't know if that's, you know, necessarily the case with the fact that they've changed, you know, how booster packs work and things like that. But I'm just like, I'm thinking about, hey, you know, Commander Legend Battle of Baldur's Gate was a couple of years ago, and then Commander Legends, the original, was a couple of years before that, and Battle Bond, and we haven't had one of those in a little while. So maybe this is kind of a way to still do it without making an entire separate set.
Yeah, interesting that they're moving the commander focused sets from being supplemental sets to being standard sets. To, if that's kind of the trend that we can expect to see here, maybe this is something that we can expect to be a little bit more pervasive throughout sets as well. I know Wizards probably be okay with that one in the end. Bobbie, how about you? How do you feel about all of these returning faces? Is it overwhelming?
So it is, but I think two things changed the landscape of all media in general. And those two things were Infinity War and Fortnite. And at a certain point, I don't want to get frustrated at the inevitable. And we already know these yearly crossover Infinity War Fortnite sets are going to happen. As the commander, like kind of just I only play commander, it feels like this pivot in content is like for players just like me. So I'm in Candyland. You know, I'm having a great time. I love the crossover. I'm here for it. It is, I think, almost objectively too much, though. You know?
Yes, yeah, and again, as someone like myself, much like yourself, leans very heavily into Commander and Commander-related content almost exclusively, getting 40 plus legends every set is pretty overwhelming. Like there has to be a maximum saturation here, to the point where Clay even forgot to mention one of their favorite legends coming back in this set too, in Selvala, right?
I mean, yeah, but like, there were like 8 or 9 that I wanted to shout out. So like,
Vala's here.
Yeah, Selvala is here.
Right.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
it's
it's pretty easy to lose some legends in this absolute rush that we're getting of all of these familiar faces. Jeremy.
So one of the things you mentioned, like the amount of legends, this is actually kind of funny because late last year, I mentioned to my boss that like, hey, we're like looking for stuff, like more content for our socials and stuff like that. And I was like, just based on where we are at that point in like November, there were enough legendary creatures released in 2023 that there were more than one a day.
Mm-hmm.
And so I said, hey, why don't we do like a commander a day thing? And we talked about it for a while, and we actually just started it about like a month ago. And we're already at the point where we have like almost 200, like it's 100 and some, like 60 or something like that, commanders in 2024 already that have been revealed, either released in MKM or is just coming out in this, or have been revealed for like Bloomburrow, Assassin's Creed and stuff like that that's coming up too. But they've released so many that I could like calendar it out for basically this through June, July or something, and not have to miss a day. And there's going to be more.
Yeah.
Like there's probably on track to be like 400 or like 400 and something commanders this year.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. Clay.
They're just providing you free content for 2025 and 2020. Like, just like go ahead, you schedule your tweets out, and then like you're good.
It's not going to stop for 2025. So when does the backlog just become crushing, right?
Because you also have to think about the fact that like last year they had Lord of the Rings. Next year they're going to have Marvel and Final Fantasy.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot. It really is. Nile, you had something to add?
Yeah, so I just want to say, like as probably one of the more like plugged into the comp side of things people here, I think like the commanderification of standard sets is really bad. And I think that it's like very telling that even like the EDH centered people here are like, this feels like too much.
Yep.
Like even like Bobbie-Christine in Candyland is like, I love it, but also like tone it down.
Don't eat all this candy.
Yeah, like I think that's very telling.
You can only have dessert for every meal for so long before you get an upset stomach, right?
I will literally eat cookies until I get an upset stomach because I can't control myself. And even I'm like, whoa, Watsy, pump the brakes a little here.
Right.
Yeah.
It's too much chocolate chips. I'm sorry.
My tummy is gonna hurt regardless, so I'm gonna eat it. Like,
it's my tummy hurts and my hand is bad. One of my favorite stickers from Cool Stuff. I want to say before we move on to our next topic, we have hit our first goal in donations. We have crossed the $300 mark. Fam, y'all are incredible. We've already smashed it. We're only a half hour in to today's roundtable. Big thanks to donors like Grovac and Crab Baskets and everyone else for making this possible. We're just going to set that bar higher folks, let's see how far we can push this. We will be doing drawings towards the end of the session today, so do make sure that you stick around and do make sure that you get those donations in. They are all going to an incredible cause in the Trevor Project, so we appreciate everything that you can spare. Honestly, thank you so much. We are going to set our next goal at 400, and where we will add a third Commander Precon to the prize pool. So let's keep pushing that higher. Amazing. I think some great points have been raised by everybody regarding seeing so many legends and familiar faces return in this set. I think lore-wise, it's really interesting to see some characters venture off of their home planes. Like seeing Rakdos, who is a thousands of year old demon, be able to leave Ravnica for the first time ever is it's kind of interesting to see, and seeing him in a different context to the murder carnival on Ravnica and now smashing things on a different plane is very interesting. But there's going to be this point of where is the line drawn? Because when we say that we're returning to Ravnica, for instance, we can expect to see the faces that we see on Ravnica. But if anybody can be on any plane, when is it that we're going to see a legend pop up in Bloomborough, a plane that, for all intents and purposes, has never seen a human or anything outside of a humanoid animal show up? So are we going to see those kind of legends pop up like that? Clay, very excited for the set, I know.
that's utterly unrelated to your point, but I'm just so excited about Bloomborough and the potential lore, like possible like explanations for what we've seen, and then like the idea of an omen path leading there, and what's the funniest animal furification, like which legendary is the funniest. Like my head just started churning. Yeah.
The fact that we are now bringing furification into Magic is an interesting topic all on its own.
It's way long overdue. Like, it's 2024. The game's how old?
Yeah, right. Bobbie?
I keep bringing up other media, but I'm gonna do it again. So, like in Kingdom Hearts, you go to a new world, you get Deep Sea Sora, right? And I love Bloomborough. You're gonna get furry Jace. You're gonna get the furry version. I love it.
Yeah, absolutely incredible. That's going to be an entirely different roundtable. That's going to be an entirely different topic, but one that we can look forward to for later this year. That's for sure.
Was it a roundtable or at Chicago where somebody was talking about a Johnny just being a dude?
Yeah, a Johnny coming to the plane and just being a human on the plane. Yeah, it's this this reverse furification, which is called I want to say it's called a Gajinka. I think that's what it's called when you turn an animal character into a human character. Anyway, that's my Drawfee art exposure talking on that one. But the next question up that I wanted to make sure that we tackle is that we've now received 2 sets in a row that are kind of, I don't want to say gimmick based, but more trope centric. We just got a murder mystery set, and now we're getting a Western set. Where is that line going to be drawn? And do we like seeing these kind of trope-heavy sets rather than a wider look at a plane in general? Would we rather see a brand new plane, and would we rather see a cross-section of the culture and humanity of a plane? Or is this one where we're seeing a new hat on a different doll on these? And Bobbie, why don't we kick off with you? How do you feel about these recent really trope-centric sets?
It feels like Secret Layers in general. The Secret Layer plays into this a little bit, where there's Secret Layer Walking Dead came out. I was like, this is my jam. This is what I'm here for. You know, people despised it. But the same people who despise that set can just be like, this Doctor Who. Now that was my favorite thing of all Magic the Gathering, right? So it's kind of hard to enjoy the sets that I like, but then be like, oh, kind of a curmudgeon on the ones I don't. It feels like I can't have my cake and eat it. Take whatever the phrase is. If I'm gonna enjoy Thunder Junction as much as I'm enjoying Thunder Junction, it's got to be fine that Karlov Murders at Karlov Manor did absolutely nothing for me.
Right, right.
They just can't all be hits.
Yeah, and people say it's okay if not every set is for you. And again, that's perfectly fair. If we get a couple of sets back to back, some people are viewing that as a nice little break from the product saturation that we've been seeing lately too. So perfectly fair. Nile, how do you feel about these kind of trope heavy sets? These different hats on the same characters kind of thing.
Unlike Bobbie-Christine, I am totally willing to be a hypocrite. I mean, MKM did nothing for me. Like, I saw it and I was like, this is just like not my vibe, not into it. Don't like the detectives, don't like the fedoras. And then, one set later, I'm like, ooh, little hats, little hats. I'm totally fine embracing that and being like, this sucks and this doesn't suck. And that's very subjective, but it's how I feel. That being said, while I am in general like in favor of these like tropier sets that are like, like I mentioned earlier, like beach episodes or whatever, I don't love that there were 2 back to back. Like I don't love that we did detectives and then we did cowboys. I would have preferred like detectives this year, cowboys next year. Like if it was like a once a year thing, I think that's good. And I think the same would be true if you were like watching a show and they were like beach episode, and then the next day they were like different beach episode. You'd be like, all right, let's get back to it.
Yeah, it's when the filler arc in the anime stretches too long.
Yes. Yeah, that's kind of how it feels.
That's something that Chris and I are going to talk about later too. is this Magic's filler arc right now?
Yeah.
Jeremy, how do you feel about some of these kind of trope heavy sets that we're getting right now? Is having 2 of them back to back too much?
I do think that it's a lot, but I also think it's one of those things where it's kind of odd thinking about it, because there have been tropes before. It's just, I think it's a case of not having the breathability for sets. Like when we originally went to Ravnica, people loved it. People ate that up. There was so much to that, even though it was just like everybody is divided into, separate, sections of a plane, and it's just like, well, that's, that's like been around for a while. Like even like Hunger Games did that sort of thing, where it's like, here's the districts, and it's like, this is the poor, like the coal miner district. This is. So you've had sort of tropes, but they weren't as heavy in certain cases. And I really feel like a lot of this started a few years ago, like Bobbie-Christine mentioned, where we had the Secret Lair, Walking Dead, and things like that. But it feels like in certain ones there's not enough done to it, and in other ones it feels like the theme just kind of flops.
Mm-hmm.
Because we've already had 2 crime ones done within a year of each other, essentially, because we had well, not quite a year, but we had what's the name of it? I'm blanking on the name of it all of a sudden.
Streets?
New Capenna?
Yeah.
New Capenna, yes, Streets. Because I'm thinking like, oh yeah, that artwork was that mountain artwork is definitely from Metropolis, like 100%. that one and the plains are both just directly, here's Metropolis. We have got film noir. We've got like this old, German expressionism. All of the architecture is all in there.
Mm-hmm.
And then we also have hard-boiled noir with MKM, like very shortly after. So it's kind of a toss-up where like the theme there, I don't think hit as heavy for people in Streets, even though it was drenched in that. Mm-hmm. But people were like, oh, cool. I think that was also partly because it was before all of the omen paths and everything too. So it is a little bit much to see some of these themes get like hit so heavy so much. And I think it's also because there isn't enough time for things to breathe. And they're so outside of the expected normal sword and sorcery fantasy that a lot of people have expected from Magic for years and years and years and years.
Yeah, I think that's a very relevant point as well. People have come to expect a kind of fantasy from Magic over its 30 plus year history. and seeing a different kind of fantasy bleed in now through some of these sets really either finds purchase with an audience or doesn't. And in this case, I think MKM fell flatter than Outlaws has, at very least. Jeremy.
Yeah, and I think Outlaws also has, like, it's not really a precedent, but I think there's going to be a certain subsection of Magic players who are also into fantasy literature, who are already going to be like kind of prepared for this mentally because of one of the most famous current fantasy writers, Brandon Sanderson, who also plays Magic, has the Mistborn saga, where it went from traditional, swords and sorcery for the first trilogy, and then went into like a steampunk western for the second trilogy. And so that's like, oh, okay, well, this is kind of a thing. And like he announced, like, hey, this is a thing that I'm doing where the magic system is gonna keep going, but it's gonna change themes, where it's gonna be like, sword and sorcery, that's going to be modern, and then there's going to be like a far future, almost sci-fi one. So there's a little bit of precedent for that, and like the Jim Butcher stuff, there's already, like, people have that in their mind.
Yeah, and I think it's that audience that this kind of thing, this kind of flexibility in the setting and the scenario works for. But it's those that aren't familiar with that level of fiction or haven't seen this done with some of their favorite setting that are really going to get this system shock, this whiplash of seeing, hey, we're just doing this multiversal war where people are slashing at each other with swords and throwing spells at each other, and now we're doing noir on a city plane, and now we're doing a heist on a cowboy plane. It just really does seem like a bit of a thematic whiplash.
Yeah, and even outside of that, like you mentioned, Westworld as well is like another popular one that's like, oh, we're going to a western, but it's still like a sci-fi western,
right? Yeah, and even in Westworld, they have different Westworlds that are different scenarios where you get to do the same thing, right? You have the samurai Westworld, you have the cowboy Westworld, and that's part of that exact same setting and that exact same fiction. Then you've got the far-flung versions of Westworld as well that are future world too. So I can see it borrowing heavily from some of those influences, as well as, like Bobbie was saying, like Fortnite and the MCU and these kind of crossover feelings as well. You can see where some of these inspirations are bleeding through into Magic in recent sets. Clay, how do you feel about these kind of trope-heavy sets? Westerns, detectives. We got the furry set coming up. Is this too much bouncing around of themes, or do you enjoy the fresh takes?
So I kind of understand the question more after everybody was talking, because at first I think I was a little confused with it. But I think it's just because for me, not necessarily just like trope specific planes, but like thematically, Magic has always felt like that to me. Like when I came in, it was right after the first time to Theros, and then like you go to Tarkir, and like the art style is different, the magic system, the belief, like everything is different. And then like you looking at the sets that we've just had, right? So Lost Caverns of Ixalan had its, is so Mesoamerican. It has all of these influences, all of this different stuff, right? And then there was the whole Phyrexian invasion. So many things are Phyrexianized. You've got all of that, the metal stuff. You had Kamigawa, which is, I mean, just that, right? Brothers War was all one theme, one thing. And so I guess it didn't jump out at me, like doing that. Like Murders of Karlov Manor felt really Ravnican to me. While it was different, it still felt like we were there. Like it wasn't like they slapped the Ravnica sticker on like a detective skin on, like, if you're using Fortnite, right? Like it did feel like it was Ravnica that they put the fedora hat on, like, but it did feel like Ravnica. Yeah. And so I think that like it might be a little bit of tone whiplash that's catching people, coming from the Phyrexian War and kind of all of this tension and kind of heavier sets. There weren't nearly as many like puns in the names of cards or puns in the flavor text, right? As like people are dying on the cards or being completed. So like that can feel like whimsical and like too lighthearted when you go from that heavy kind of thing to something more lighthearted. And so I'll be curious to see, because I know like later this year we have that horror set that's like
Duskborn.
takes place, Dustborn, and Bloomburrow is going to be a very different kind of like thematic thing. It'll be interesting to see if Magic settles back into kind of more of a cycle from like lighthearted to more heavy, or if like they're making a conscious decision to be relaxed for a year or two before we cycle up the next like big story, big tension.
It's nice to get a little bit of a breather, but going from like fantasy epic through to it's your favorite character wearing a cowboy hat is a bit of that disconnect, and it can definitely leave people.
I think it's also you were talking about the people who would have like the Sanderson fans, right, having experience with that, and like for me, there's a little bit of the like AU fanfic mentality where it's like the story is over. I want to know what that person would do in this setting. Like I never thought we were going to get a Bruce Tarl card, but I wanted to know how Bruce Tarl respond, to this. And so like that, there's less anchoring or permanency to this. Like they don't feel as like fish out of water,
Mm-hmm. Jeremy.
And I don't think we're slowing down next year, as we've already talked about, where we've got like the, as some, I can't remember who was in Showed or somebody in chat said it was the Wacky Racers.
Yeah.
It's the Death Racers, but we also have the Return to Lorwyn. We have Marvel. We have Final Fantasy set, all Final Fantasy. And then like, I think they said one more, but that's like, yeah, when you think about going from like, we don't know the timeline or anything, I don't think yet, but when you're going from something that's like a, death race to, hey, what's happening with Lorwyn? That was like the cute mystical and then turned into the really evil, Eventide.
Yeah, I think Mishodom's right that it's Tarkir, but you're right. Yeah, multiplayer death race, which is hopefully going to be Mad Max-esque. And then like, how's Lorwyn been?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be very, very interesting. I'm looking forward to it, and I think that it's a perfectly valid response to say, hey, this setting just isn't for me, doesn't resonate with me. It's okay if not everything is for everyone, which is fine. We're gonna shift gears in just a moment here for a few other questions, team. But I did want to remind everybody out there that you can donate to the Trevor Project. Again, command donate in chat. And if you donate in $5 increments, you will be entered into a draw to win prizes at the end of the night. Right now, we're giving away an Infinite Tokens prize pack and 2 precons from Outlaws of Thunder Junction. The next precon that we add to the pool is going to come at $400, just $50 away in donations. Let's see if we can smash those targets, folks. And we'll keep adding to this as you keep donating. So let's keep it up. We thank everybody who's donated so far. Thank you so much for your generosity and your support. Now, one of the things that I wanted to talk about next wasn't so much about the plane, but more the set structure, because as we've shifted to play boosters, this set is one that is adjusting to this new style, as not only do we have a bonus sheet in this and the breaking news cards, but we also have a second bonus sheet on this set with the big score being added in too. So there was a lot of confusion when this was announced for play boosters that we get core set cards, breaking news cards, and big score cards coming out of these boosters. So I wanted to break this down for everyone and get our opinions. How do we feel first about the breaking news cards and these bonus sheets that we've been seeing in sets lately, like the Enchanting Tales from our Eldraine set last year as well, and some of these great ones that we've been seeing, like the retro artifacts from Brothers War 2. How do we feel about these bonus sheets being added in? Niall, I'm particularly interested in your opinion because it definitely warps the limited format to get these bonus sheets in here. So how do you feel about that?
Yeah, I think it's really really tough, especially because play boosters are like the all-encompassing booster now. I think I would feel way different if we had set and draft boosters again, and you told me like all of this bonus sheet stuff is in set boosters, and draft boosters is just like the core set. And then I'd be like, that's sweet, that's awesome. I think it's going to feel really, really bad when you sit down to a game of limited and your opponent just pulled Oko, like Oko banned like everywhere, like, but is legal in your standard limited draft. Like I think that's going to just, and I mean, there's always like bombs and limited and stuff, but like having this whole sheet of like pull it and you're going to have like a really, really good time, feels really tough to me. And it's also just like I try to think a lot about like new player experience and the accessibility of Magic for people who haven't like are less enfranchised with it than all of us are. And I think this kind of thing is like really, really tough for that. Like how do I explain to someone like I've explained to someone what standard is, and then I'm like, all right, go buy these packs. And they're like, oh, I got this cool card, I'm going to put it in my deck. And I'm like, well, not that one. Like that's not like not a bunch of these. You got to look at the little picture.
I know that I am not looking forward to going to the pre-release and getting absolutely dunked on by an opponent that opens like a mana drain and just absolutely crushes me. I know that there's going to be some stories about that, like, oh hey, I opened a mana drain in my sealed pool and just dominated the entire pre-release event. While I do appreciate them as reprints here, I think that skewing the limited experience is an unintended consequence of this. It makes it fun, but the power dynamic is way off here. The vibes are off, as the kids say.
Absolutely.
Bobbie-Christine, how do you feel about the breaking news bonus sheet?
Breaking news, it feels like Strixhaven set the precedent, and I really enjoyed the mystical archives. And I really enjoy this concept of this reprint heavy slot. I don't play enough limited to have a strong enough opinion, but if you're the one who did the mana drain, I feel pretty good, right?
Yeah.
But I think for this particular one, I don't love that at the top of every single card is just the word prosperity. It's prosperity mana drain. It's prosperity anguished unmaking, and it's a choice, I suppose, to put a full word on a card that has nothing to do with the mechanic of the card.
Yeah.
I'm okay with it overall. I think there's a step too many for this one. I think they could have maybe take special guest and just slammed it into the big score. That has to be special guest and big score and prosperity post. I don't know. It's too convoluted. It's too much to explain to a new player, like Nile said.
Yeah, makes sense. Nile, you had something to
add? Bobbie just reminded me of another big problem I have with these, which is an accessibility issue where, like we see a lot in secret layers, like magic cards that just don't look like magic cards. And I think having it in a standard legal set is like more egregious. Like you look at this, it is not immediately apparent to me that this is a blue card. Like you look at any of these, it is not immediately apparent what color the card is. It is not immediately apparent what the mana cost is. Like Bobbie said, there's like text where you're expecting no text. There's irrelevant text. And that is, I don't know, I think there's like a real accessibility issue for all sorts of players with cards like these.
I think that's a great point too. These ones in particular read more like the Amonkhet invocations in that they're hard to decipher, they're hard to read. The color is very, very much obscured on this too. And while I appreciate the reprints here, I think that this approach personally is a miss for me. Clay, how do you feel about the breaking news sheet?
Just the breaking news sheet, or the big score
just
as
the
well?
breaking news sheet for here. We'll talk about big score in a moment.
I think the style is cool. I think it feels thematic. I think the cards that they picked are really good. In general, with limited, I don't play a lot of limited. Typically for limited, if I'm lucky enough to get to go to the pre-release and then like maybe a couple drafts on arena, so like that caveat of like that's not something that typically impacts me. But yeah, no, I don't know. Like I just, my big takeaway is like I'm always the person, right, who comes on and is like, I love the bonus sheets, I love the alternate art, I love, like I'm that I am that person, and that product, that part of Magic is for me. I do think that sets should only have one. That's my only like. And you can pick one, pick the other. I don't care. I think they're both cool. I think they're an important, like, a advantageous or a good thing that Magic has added to sets. But I do think that there should only be one, just visually and cognitively, and just like I love following that stuff. I love looking at all of that art. When the second bonus sheet was announced, and I understand the reason for it. When the second bonus sheet was announced, I just kind of was like, I'll open what I'll open, but I don't know what's going to happen. Like, yeah. And what's there.
Fair. So. Fair. Well, Jeremy, you might be a little biased because your favorite card appears in the breaking news here, but how do you feel about this reprint sheet in particular?
I mean, I agree with a lot of what's been said, where it's that there's accessibility issues. I definitely know that when we sat down and we started talking about this right after the set started to get like previewed and everything, or like when the first like breaking news got previewed, Stephen Green said, I thought they had legit reprinted Prosperity, because that is a card.
Yeah, it's true.
It's a card name. So it's like, I legit thought they, and then I had to keep going, and I was like, oh no, this is whatever card it was at the time. I do think it is nice that there is going to be some of these cards are going to probably drop in price a little bit, just because there's going to be slightly more availability. I don't know how much, because again, sometimes some of these bonus sheets will like have so much availability, like there's one in every pack, blah blah blah, that it just makes those prices plummet. Other times it's like, oh yeah, we have this, but there's one in every like case. Of like, because there's two different versions of the breaking news, because there's that regular wanted poster version, and then there's the textured foils that they showed off, which look really cool, but from what I understand are also going to be that chase, like there's only going to be one of these per just the mythics, and like one per like every so many 100 or whatever versions. So if you really wanted to get that textured foil, mana drain, that thing's going to be a chunk of change. So it is a little bit interesting in that sense. But like, I do think a lot of people pointed out that like Mind Break Trap foils especially should be way more accessible. Yeah. Should drop in price just based on that regular version of it. There's a bunch of things, but then there's also weird things like it was pointed out that they put in Buried in the Garden, which literally came out
last
in MKM. That's like that's so weird that it was like, here's a card that is immediately reprinted in the next set in the bonus sheet spot. So it's a little weird.
Not the first time we've seen it from them with something like Colossal Dreadmaw being printed in back-to-back sets, right?
Yeah. So yeah, it's nice that some of these are in there. I think there's cool versions that some people are going to want, because it's art is subjective. Some people are going to absolutely love this frame and be like, man, I really want that version of Detention Sphere for my, whatever deck. I really want that version of, like I said, Villainous Wealth. Hopefully I get an artist proof of it, but I would ideally like a different frame.
Yeah, I think that's one of the most frustrating parts about this for me, is I think like all of this art, it kicks so much ass. Like I think it's so good and so cool, but I just like cannot stand the frame.
Totally fair. And we mentioned reprint value here and bringing some of the prices down. Something like Mindbreak Trap had recently climbed in price thanks to its inclusion in CEDH decks. To I think one point it was at $60 and has immediately started coming down thanks to the availability of it just being announced that it's going to be reprinted. And even Doubling Season out of Wilds of Eldraine was at $1.60 plus, and then now you can grab a copy for $40. So it's definitely making an impact on reprint prices. Same with Bitter Blossom too, which is retaining a lot of price memory from its heyday in Modern and Standard too. But now you can get copies for under $20, which is the first time you've been able to do that in a long time. Jeremy.
I started playing a little bit more competitively when like Lorwyn first came out. And yeah, having people call it cash seize for being a $20 standard card is just, it's so quaint to think, 15 years ago when people were like $20 for a standard card.
Laughs in Shieldred.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, I still haven't bought a Meat Hook Massacre just because it's so like, that's perfect for my Zaxxar deck, but it's just not, I'm not going to shell up for that one right now. Not worth it to me.
Well, yeah, a lot of people have been lamenting the prices of standard cards, which I'm sure we can go way further into in this discussion with a lot of mythics out of recent sets reaching the Jace the Mind Sculptor prices that really set the bar high to begin with. I did mention Shieldred, which is $120 right now and is a mythic that is in standard. Yeah. It's climbing. It's getting up there. So wild. I'm just glad to see things like some Commander staples and some Modern staples get reprints that they need to make those formats a little bit more accessible too. All right. So we talked about the breaking news bonus sheet. There is another bonus sheet in the big score sheet here too. And for those unfamiliar with the background of the big score, these cards were supposed to be an Aftermath style set, a mini set, a micro set. And they decided to fold them into Outlaws of Thunder Junction to get these cards printed when they need to and injected into the longer standard cycle here too. But it adds even more complexity in the fact that all of these are taking place of the list slot in play boosters means that they're going to be pretty scarce as well. So I want to once again ask everybody, how do we feel about the big score? How do we feel about the epilogue sets being destroyed at this point and a failed experiment from Wizards End? And do we feel like these cards are going to be available to players who want them at reasonable prices? We were just talking about the prices of some cards in Standard. Are these going to be harder to get than ever? Jeremy, what do you think about this?
Yeah, I do like that they were just basically like, hey, we've got these cards, we want to get them out, let's put them in there. It's nice that they did that. It seemed like they were aiming after the last after Aftermath and the epilogue set. It seemed like they were trying to increase the power level to make it be a bit more attractive, or at least hint more towards power, because they have things like like Lost Jit and Lotus Ring and Sword of Wealth and Power and stuff like that are all in here referencing these other older cards that have these really big histories behind them, but some of them are just kind of okay, whereas the Aftermath set was like, it was, I don't think there's almost any card that like anybody could remember specifically that it's from Aftermath. I think the one that was hyped up the most was like Kenrith's Royal Funeral, and I have not seen that played.
I think the cash in it was the Nissa.
Right, Nissa. And Karn was like another one that was in there.
Right.
So there's like a couple in there that have like seen some play, but if this was released as an Aftermath, like an epilogue style set, I don't think people would have batted an eye. But I guess their market research just said, nah, not worth it. So it is nice that they still got them out there. I am a little I don't want to say upset, but it's a little kind of frustrating that there are 3 different versions of these cards in packs, like you said, taking up the list slot. So if you want to get a specific version of, the new sword, it's going to be even harder.
Yeah.
So accessibility is way, way down.
Yeah,
because of that.
It's going to be difficult to get specific versions and printings, and I think in a lot of cases, it's just going to be difficult to get some of these cards at all, which is kind of the antithesis of these aftermath sets in general, because they want these aftermath sets as I think, as we put it in our roundtable, the patches for standard. So solutions that they want to print into the format with the longer rotation cycles. Now, this is where they have the opportunity to do that, but making these cards less available doesn't really achieve that goal.
Yeah, because if you think about like how people were talking about when they were opening up aftermath boosters, and it's like, I opened an entire booster box and I got so many duplicates because there's only 50 or whatever cards in the set. I don't think people would be very upset if they got 4 different versions of Sword and Wealth and Power in like a case.
Right.
They'd be very happy with it. But now with it being a lot more limited in this way, I think it's going to be a lot harder to get, a lot pricier. So
anecdotal, but I opened 2 aftermath boosters and 50% of the booster was duplicate. That isn't a great feeling, especially when your booster contains 2/3 as many cards as a regular booster does. So again, I can understand why they got rid of the aftermath style, the epilogue sets here. Bobbie-Christine, how do you feel about the big score being folded in to the main set? Do you think that these cards are going to be available, or as available as players want?
I think they're going to be quite rare. I think I'm not going to be surprised if a good chunk of these hold 10 or over, just as a general prediction, because they are quite rare. And I agree, there's like a Sword of Wealth and Power regular art, a Sword of Wealth and Power full art, a Sword of Wealth and Power like alternate vault arts, and then some of them have an alternate vault art raised foil treatment. And it's I don't know, it is a little much. However, the pack opening experience of Aftermath was so abysmal that if it means the death of epilogue boosters, if this means we don't get epilogue boosters, I'll take it.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see if they fold these kind of solutions into the bonus sheets moving forward, which is one way to do this, as opposed to going reprint heavy to have a bonus sheet that includes new cards in it too. But we'll see what the reaction to play boosters is in the long run too. We're seeing Wizards playing around with their booster styles and booster types here too. Set boosters lasted how long? 2 years?
Why it was really that short? That's
started with Zendikar.
Yeah.
So it was like 2019.
Was it
Like
okay?
4 years.
So 4 years. All right.
Okay.
Okay. So it's still seeing that they're willing to play around with these booster types, and especially with these epilogue style sets, and folding them in, and how we can get these cards injected into the format. Nile, how do you? Oh, sorry, Bobbie, please.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Well, real quick, people are saying that it's obvious which epilogue cards are the epilogue cards because they have that set symbol.
Yes.
And that's acting under the assumption that every Aftermath epilogue booster card was some mythic banger. And I'm like, so what? And I'm like, why are we ignoring what happened to the uncommon chaff that filled the rest of those boxes? I'm just wondering where the heck those cards went. That's all. I pass priority.
And I think that's a fantastic point too. Maybe we were expecting to do 5-card boosters where every card in the booster is a mythic for this epilogue set. Maybe that was their intention. Who knows? So Nile, how do you feel? We got your impressions on the breaking news bonus sheet. How do you feel about another bonus sheet introducing some bangers like these into the format?
Yeah, I think it's tricky. I wish we could live in the timeline where this was the first epilogue set that they experimented with, because I think the whole concept of epilogue kind of sucks a little bit. And that might just be bias from like Aftermath being so rough. But a part of me really feels like if this had been the first epilogue set they ever did, and this was like all the cards that were in it, I think it could have done a lot better, because so many of these cards look so good for standard and, you know, are so powerful and look good for other formats as well, you know, like EDH, Pioneer, Modern even. I think it could have been successful. And I think the flip side of that is that it actually really sucks that a lot of these cards are so good and so exciting, because now they're being folded into this very limited slot. And so it's like you're gonna need some of these for standard, most likely, like minimum for standard, probably also for Pioneer and Modern. And just getting a hold of them feels like it's gonna be difficult. Maybe that won't actually be the case. Maybe there's like enough tantalizing cards with like the various bonus sheets that people open the set like crazy, and the singles availability is actually like fine. But it's definitely worrisome.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I know personally I've been looking up some of the prices for these big score cards because I'm morbidly curious about it, and none of them are going for under $10 right now. So, you know, they've kind of set a minimum bar on that one. Sure.
I kind of feel like I didn't mention it previously, but I completely forgot about loot key to everything being in the big score as well. So anybody who wants to have the fun little, you know, loot creature as a commander or something like that is going to be paying pretty decently for that, because like there are 3 different versions of loot, and even the base one right now is still pretty up there. Again, it's a little bit before release, so most of the times right after release prices trend down a little bit, and then they'll trend back up as the set's, you know, been out for a little while and the next set's coming up and everything. But still, if somebody a year from now wants to get loot the key to everything and just like, you know, got into Commander a couple months before and they're like, oh my goodness, this looks so cool, I want to build this. It's like, well, to start off, you're going to have to buy that Commander for $30-$40 or whatever it is, right off the bat.
Yeah. And the last thing I'll say about epilogue sets is I am very happy that they're kind of just going away entirely, because like one thing that I really disliked about Aftermath was it felt like it turned March of Machines into this like lame duck standard almost, you know, where it's like we know cards are coming like so soon, but we still have to like build new decks and like shape a meta for like 2 weeks or whatever. And then it's like, oh, okay, now there's new cards and we have to do it all again.
Yeah, and I think that leans into the worst of the product fatigue too. When you know, how are you supposed to invest in cards when the solution to the latest meta deck could be printed 2 weeks from now, kind of thing?
Exactly.
Right? Yeah. Clay, how do you feel about the big score bonus sheet?
So I kind of mentioned it already when I was like saying, like, you know, I think that there only needs to be one bonus sheet. On the other hand, I'm glad that they are trying new things, and I am glad that they acknowledge when those new things maybe don't work, and then they move on and they don't tie all the horses to the new thing. You don't get 3 years of it before they change. Like, I really like that they're continuing to try different things. And so if we have one set that the Aftermath, which was not great, and then we have this, which is the, okay, that wasn't great, this is the consequence, those 30 cards, we're just going to fold them in like as a one-time thing, fine, that's cool. I, having not playing standard, I can't really like comment on like where those cards are in relation to what Dexter's meta or like how things are going. So like I can't really evaluate that from that perspective. But loot is everything, and so if this was the price we had to pay in order to get the boy, I will pay that every time. And so you know what? It's sometimes there's a price you got to pay, and it is what it is. There are some like wildly cool cards though. It like the big score, like they were definitely trying some things, like looking to push push some lines there, and I appreciate that, but maybe a little less.
Jeremy, something bad.
I have to ask Clay, are you going to be getting the loot bag from Ultra Pro?
I didn't know that this was a thing, but I will look at it after.
Plushie.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Check it out.
Yeah, I'll be getting that. I'm not gonna sit here and lie on Beyonce's internet. Like, I'm gonna be real. I'm gonna get that.
Oh,
all right.
Fantastic.
Add that to the budget.
I do, to your point, Clay, like that the Wizards design team has a little bit of a playground to play around with some card design and introduce something that maybe doesn't fit into a core set. There's the loot bag there.
Is the mouth the opening or is it the back?
It's in the back behind the cape, I believe.
Oh, I wanted it to be the mouth and like the little teeth.
So good.
And the zipper was his little teeth.
Yeah.
That would be horrifying.
You say horrifying, but like you just feed your son little rocks.
Okay. So yeah, I like that. At very least, the Wizards design team has something where to flex some of their other designs, put something that doesn't fit into the main set, or maybe something that they don't want to wait for a supplementary set to put out as well. But we'll talk about some of our favorite cards from the set in a moment. I do want to make sure that we touch on some of our favorite mechanics from the set first, and I don't count as your favorite mechanic, everyone. I know that's the first thing that everybody says about this. But before we do that, I do want to remind everybody that, again, we are raising donations for the Trevor Project tonight. Hit Command Donate in chat. Donate in $5 increments to get entered into our draw for the end of the night. Currently, we're giving away an Infinitokens prize pack and 2 Commander Precons from the set. However, we're just $25 away from our next donation goal of $400, where we will add another Precon to the drawing pool. So please give generously. Everybody appreciates it. We really do. And we will be doing Q&A a little bit later as well. Be sure to redeem the channel point redemption of Ask a Question so that we can track your questions, everyone. Looking forward to that. So we found a few new mechanics introduced in this set, from plotting through to crimes, and the return of some sub-themes like deserts too. How do we feel about some of these mechanics? Are they good? Do we feel like they're potentially evergreen, or as design calls them, deciduous mechanics as well, ones that might be returning in upcoming sets once in a while? I think personally committing crimes is kind of cool. But I want everybody's opinion on this. Bobbie, let's start with you. How do you feel about some of the new mechanics from the set?
I love that plot is like power crept modal spells. I love that committing a crime is a natural. I think committing a crime is natural. Did you target something of your opponent's? You've committed a crime. I think that's very good, clean design. And personally, I think Outlaws is clean as well. I love that we can reference the party mechanic. That's a party. These are outlaws. It sets us up to be like, these are these. And because Outlaws is such a good mechanic, all these random, kind of useless old mercenary cards from way back in the day, these like old school mercenaries and these old school assassins get to shine a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I love that.
Yeah. We've been seeing some love for some of these subtypes like assassins and rogues in recent sets. It's great to see that we've kind of got an all-encompassing mechanic for them too. Great to see. Nile, how do you feel about some of these mechanics? Anything that you feel is going to make a splash in constructed formats?
Yeah, I think plot is really interesting. I am a noted face down card hater. I never liked the foretell cards. I never liked the disguise cards, the morph cards. I just don't like the sort of sub game that it makes, where you have to guess this card, because it's usually there are 1 to 2 cards this could be anyways. Mm-hmm. But when it is 2 cards, it's just annoying to me personally to have to play around 2 things. So I think face up foretell is awesome. And I think what they've done with a lot of the the plot abilities and like the bonuses you get from it. I think that's really, really cool. And especially like in standard right now, where you've got like, you know, a big part of standard is all these aggro decks. Another part of standard is like all these decks that are just full of board wipes because there's so much removal in standard. I think it's really awesome for the more aggressive decks to be able to go, okay, I stuck a couple threats on the board. Now I'm just plotting the rest of them. And you can board wipe me, and then the next turn I'm just playing 3 creatures for free.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's so cool. I think that's such a cool design space. But I think the one that's really going to be evergreen is going to be Spree. I think Spree is so incredible in such sleek design. You know, just like it's a lot like Kicker, but I think having the like you have to pay one of these extra things and like how you do it changes like the shape and texture of the card completely. It's such fun Magic, like getting to make choices and have flexibility and like, you know, having more options to advance your game plan is just fun. It's why you should free Fable, #unban Fable. It's just fun to get to do the things you need to do. So I'm big on Spree.
Mm-hmm. I love flexibility on cards. I always say when you can dedicate one slot in your deck to doing multiple things, it is always a good thing. So
Absolutely.
I do have some grievances about Spree that I'll get to in a little bit, but I do want to make sure, Clay, how do you feel about some of these mechanics that are introduced in the set?
So I was going to make a joke about Ward being my favorite mechanic in the set, but I think that they're really cool. I think that plot is very, very good, and especially for the reason that Niall said about the like face down versus face up, and it made me think about the morph. It's always will better, right? Like that kind of idea of like if a deck foretells a card and I'm like, well, that's Doomscar.
It has to be Doomscar. It's always Doomscar.
It's Doomscar or saw it coming. It removes the question about it because certain decks are only going to be playing certain cards, and then it's just like, okay, cool. Now I'm just facing the inevitable. So yeah, I do think that it's really cool. I'm also noted. I love playing cards, 1 for free, but 2 not from my hand for additional benefits. So like playing cards from exile, always a cool thing. Being able to do that for free later when I decide, awesome. I think that Spree is very cool and very good design, but it is something that makes me worried about going to like pre-release level, like casual limited and like very like casual games where like the more like options and modes and things like can just really slow down the folks who aren't as experienced with the cards or like enfranchised with like the play patterns and stuff. And so it's something that like initially I was like really hesitant about, I guess I would say. But like I do think that with time it will become natural to people and it'll get smoother, it'll get easier. I think design wise it's really cool. I love that we got a whole bunch more deserts. Deserts are cool, and having a land type that had like only a few that were, and like each had like a, you know, its colors ability, and then like you couldn't do anything with deserts beyond that. So like from an EDH perspective, like you're either like having to hard dig for these like what was it, like 10 lands, 12 lands before, like you couldn't do that. And now it's like, hey, here's a whole bunch that come in tapped. Okay, they ping, which commits a crime. Like it's awesome. It's just great. This was the perfect set for it. Love it.
Fantastic. Love all around from Play as usual. Love to see it. Jeremy, how do you feel about the new mechanics in the set?
I agree with a lot of what was said. Spree, I think, is going to be really good. Like just long term. The thing that I'm a little bit like going into it that I was hesitant on is the mental load. Clay kind of mentioned it a little bit with Spree especially, but the mental load, especially once the set is a little bit further away from the release date, of just remembering things like, hey, which different cards are in a party, like which different creature types are in a party, and which different creature types are are outlaws, and if it doesn't have the reminder text on it, you might just miss. You might completely forget that warlock is an outlaw or something like that. So I think there's a little bit of the mental load to have that. Obviously there's there's way more text on Magic cards now than there have been, and it's just going to keep getting more and more complex because that's just how the game works. But having that mental load of just remembering like, hey, what was going on here. The only other one that that we just didn't even mention at all is saddle, which I thought was really interesting as hey, this is crew, but you still get to just attack with this creature and block with it. Like you don't have to wait, but you'll get a bonus if you tap another creature down.
Clay, something in response?
Okay, so I haven't looked at the rules text for the saddle. Does it fix the crew thing where you can just crew any number of creatures?
No, you can crew any number of creatures. It is as a sorcery, so you can't do it in combat. But that's kind of where it's at with like the Gitrog Ravenous Ride from the precons is one that's like, oh, you're gonna crew this with Yargle and Multani. So you're gonna just draw 18 and put all your lands into play. That's just gonna happen. So
That's too wild.
Nile?
Yeah, I want to on the like new player experience, I actually disagree a little bit about, I guess, like the grockability of spree cards. I have this thing that I call the Pilnock principle, which is my best friend named Pilnock. I taught her how to play Magic, and she is sort of my like Rosetta Stone for new players. And so it's very easy for me to think like, how quickly could I explain this to Pilnock? And in my opinion, Spree passes the Pilnock principle with flying colors. I think I can show her a Spree card. Within 15 seconds, she gets it. The things in this set that I think don't pass the Pilnock principle, outlaws and crime committing. I think those are two things that, like Jeremy said, if you don't have the reminder text, she's just not going to remember. Like I'm going to be like, all right, this is what an outlaw is. And in one ear, out the other. There's no chance she's remembering all those. I'm going to say this is what committing a crime is. She's never going to remember when she's committed a crime.
Yeah. Jeremy?
I totally agree. On the grok ability, I think it's like Clay kind of mentioned it too, where Spree is like, it's really nice. It's clean. It's like easy to figure out what it does. It's more of the amount of extra decision making that has to go in during the game that causes Spree to be just a little bit more information overload, but it is more what you said. It's more the committing crimes, what's an outlaw. That is more the mental tax, like remembering going into the game rather than during the game of, decision making, like, what modes do I pick for my modal spell kind of thing.
Right. Bobbie, something to add?
I love the outlaw mechanic, and given that, I want every single card that utilizes it to have the reminder text. I never want an outlaw card that's not going to remind me. That's totally fair. I love the mechanic, but even at the level I'm at where I play all the time, I'm going to want that reference every time I look at the card. And I had a very quick prediction on when it comes to outlaws, right? They kind of set the precedent. Like I said, there's a party, there's outlaws, and the next one I predict, it's going to be cuties or whatever they're going to call it, right? It's going to be rabbits, squirrels, beavers, capybaras, and mice. I'm predicting it right here, right here.
All the varmints.
Awesome. Clay?
Oh, I was just going to add armadillos and pangolins.
Pangolins. Please give me pangolins.
The three of them that are like legal real Magic cards have to be in that, or I am starting a very long trek to Seattle or Washington in order to correct that.
In terms of the outlaws, there is a very handy mnemonic that I saw for this. It's warm up, which is warlocks, assassins, rogues, mercenaries, und pirates.
Okay, sure.
That's insane, though,
That's
that has to exist, right?
Yeah.
Like, we should not need mnemonics to play Magic.
Right.
I'm with you. But we do have things like bread. We do have things like LIFO, last in, first out, those kind of things. Those are just little reminders here. But I agree, for something like a new mechanic, it needs to be printed on the card. Otherwise, the mental tax taken on people is going to be a lot. Jeremy?
Yeah, because like I did mention already, the Get Truck Ravenous Ride was the one that I thought of initially, because I think this will be a popular commander, and it doesn't have reminder text of what saddle does. It just says saddle 1, because there's so much other text on there. They couldn't put the reminder text on there. So
yeah, which is going to be hard when somebody opens that as their pre-release promo and it's just like, what is saddle? I hope that I've opened something else with saddle in the set so that I can find that reminder text.
Somebody's going to try and do it during combat so that they can, I connected. I'm going to saddle during, it's only source. So I can't do that and sacrifice my creature. Okay.
Exactly. Clay.
I was about to make the exact same point for the create a mercenary token. That was on the Chris just had at knife point up, which is the you create a 1/1 red mercenary that has the ability tap creature gets +1/+0 sorcery.
Yeah. And
that feels like that's going to be one over and over again. People are going to swing in, like, try combat tricks, try like all that, right? And it's just going to be like, that's a sorcery. That's a sorcery. Or it's +1/+0, not +1/+1.
Mm-hmm.
Both of those, it just feels like that's going to be an easy mistake to make.
Definitely. But overall, I think some of the mechanics, like crime, is a great one. There is going to be the mental tax of remembering what a crime is. It's not going to be on every card, but it's definitely a mechanic that I can see returning in future sets too. It's easy enough to implement as a deciduous mechanic that we can see crop up from time to time, like Scry. Nice and easy. Now, before we move on to our favorite portion, some of our favorites from the set, I do want to say that we've hit our $400 goal in donations. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, everybody, for your donations. So we are adding one additional precon to the prize pool. We are now giving away an Infinite Tokens prize pack and 3 Outlaws of Thunder Junction precons. If you want to get in on the draw, please donate in $5 increments. It is command donate in chat. If we make it to 500 before the end of the night, we do have 30 minutes left in the night, we will be adding a 4th precon to the pool. Absolutely wild. So please, folks, donate generously to the Trevor Project, and we'll see if we can smash these goals. All right, folks. So there are a lot of new cards in this set, as always, and there are a lot of favorites that we might have. Favorite arts, favorite mechanics, favorite cards. What are we brewing with? What are we most excited to play with? So I want to give everybody an opportunity to talk about some of their favorites. Let's start with arts first. If you've got any favorite arts from the set that differs from your favorite cards from the set, let's try and separate those out a little bit here. Let's go around the table here and get some of everybody's favorites. Jeremy, starting with you, what are some of your favorite arts from the set?
I absolutely love the new Archangel of Tithes art. I think that one's fantastic. It's just the whole thing, the composition, the angel, the weapon, like getting ready to fire. It's just super, super sweet. And there was one other one that I really liked, and I am sorry I've forgotten the card name. Although I also like the new Obeka as well. You mentioned it as like a favorite card. I like that artwork a lot with the shattering of time in the background. I think that's really cool. Cactarantula.
Yeah.
Love that artwork. I think it's fantastic.
I love the plant creatures in this set, the cactus people, the cactus animals. I think that for a set that was touted to have no natural residents of this plane, having these plant people be the residents here is really interesting, and I think thematic for the set.
I have 2 more. One is Gold Rush is obviously Tomer.
Yeah, that's great.
And I am a fan of the Coyote and the Roadrunner in the set. I like those nods. I know Throwmucking said that. I don't need that kind of nonsense in my set, and it's completely understandable. I think it's funny when they add in those little, the little hints or the little shout outs there. The resilient
Look, Chris
Roadrunner.
can be a wet blanket all he wants. These are fun. These are fun throwaway little references.
What was the other one? It's the explosives one, like the boom box or whatever.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, boombox. It's just called boombox. Yeah, I think that art is very funny with the dynamite and all the horseshoes coming around it. But yeah, so those are my arts.
Awesome. Yeah, a lot of really interesting ones, good references, and some fun stuff in this set. Clay, how about you? Some of your favorite arts from this set?
Well, so I was like scrolling back through trying to remember exactly which ones I'd picked because Jeremy grabbed several of mine there. And I kind of jump scared myself with a card that I don't remember seeing, and it's a common, so it kind of makes sense. But Loan Shark, I know I was like, things should be silly and fun, and like that's a cool, like I enjoy that. That's like maybe it's really funny. It looks really good, but like that's just so much. A serious one, I love the art for Fleeting Reflection. That's just really, really cute. And then there was so Tiny Bones. Anything Tiny Bones related, any art that Tiny Bones is in is going to be on that list of art that I appreciate. Hello, Bagheera. And oh gosh, now I can't scroll fast enough.
All good. Some fantastic picks in there too. We can move on. We can always come back. So, Bobbie, how about you? Some of your favorite arts from the set?
I got 2 cards picked, and I picked them because not only do I love their art, but I love the regular art and the alternate art. I think are spectacular. Astral Cornucopia, Ancient Cornucopia. Both versions are absolutely stellar. This like a glimpse into this like big, beautiful, like boundless world inside these cornucopias. So stunning, both of them, honestly. And the other one where both of them hit for me is the Vaultborn Tyrant, because I'm just a dino girly, and I love both of these arts look so vicious and so cool. They really represented a 7-cost mythic dinosaur, in my opinion. I love both of these. Also, obviously, I'm a green player, so...
Fantastic. Yeah, I think the big scorecards for sure knocked it out of the park with some of these arts. Some amazing alternate arts in those two. Some of the throwbacks, like Jite being in the same position as the original one too. I think that those are great also. Niall, how about you? Some of your favorite arts from the set?
Yeah, I'm extremely art pilled. I had 5 picked out. Jeremy already mentioned the angel though, so we're just going to talk about 4. First, Vault Plunderer by Evan Fong. Put respect on the name. I think it's so cool. I love what they're doing with like lighting and stuff here. I just think it's really, really good. Lotus Ring, Elena Danner. Put respect on the name.
Oh my God, let's go.
So good. So like she's just like, I'm such an Elena Danner stan. Like everything she does is just gold to me, and this is no exception. My next one is one of the special guests, the Morbid Opportunist art. I think this one goes crazy. It is so intense and just gorgeous. I love it so much. My last one was actually one of my preview cards. It's called Raucous Entertainer. And as soon as they emailed this to me, I was like, this art is so good. It goes so crazy. I just love how, like, you know, there's this like light effect thing coming out of the piano, and like inside of that is all the commotion, but outside of that is like the same scene without the commotion. I think this art is so cool. I love it so much.
Absolutely. Some bangers in there for sure. Jeremy?
Since we've been pretty PG this entire time, I'm going to bring up 2 that I think are going to be at least somewhat sought after. So first off, we have Seraphic Steed because everybody who had Seraphic Sword started calling it Sapphic Sword. And now we have a Lisa Frank unicorn that is going to be called Sapphic Steed. I think that's fantastic. And God bless whoever got this through. Giant Beaver. You know that somebody was just like, hey, I'm going to play my Giant Beaver. I'm going to mount my Giant Beaver and saddle it up on something else. You know, they're like, you know somebody was cackling all the way through.
We did have a good laugh about that one
Yeah.
when we saw that one come up. That's good. Clay.
So I found Pillage the Bog was one that I had originally highlighted that I want to. The juxtaposition, the art, and then like that it's at an angle, for some reason really tickles my brain. And then the big score, like the vault frame for Grand Abolisher, goes so hard, and especially like if you know Avery. Like the moment this card got previewed, everybody was like, Avery, you have to cosplay this. And like, I'm very excited, hopefully, that like we can make this come to be. But this art is just awesome. It just looks so cool. And the fact that it's on like such a badass card like Grand Abolisher is like the perfect combination of awesome card, awesome art. Like,
absolutely. Bobbie, something to add?
Slightly obligated to also shout out my preview card, but also it is genuinely one of the most beautiful cards I've ever seen. Miriam is stunning, and shout out to Horse Girls everywhere.
Yeah,
It's so good.
Really good. Yeah, there are a lot of fantastic arts in this set, and you know, we mentioned how the bonus sheets are conflating a lot of the availability and the play for the formats, and what is playable or what isn't, and what's going to make an impact and limited and what isn't. But bless them, they make these cards look so good. They really do. I really like all of the joins ups cards too, like the art style on the X joins up too. Really interesting, something a little bit different. And the things like, yeah, look at those. They look fantastic. Vraska joins up, Tiny Bones joins up, Kellen joins up. They're all done in the same style, same artist, and they all look great. Clay.
I was just say one, Wiley Beckert, absolutely incredible. Everything that they've ever put out has been a banger. But speaking of like just that kind of like slightly different style, the Kambal Profiteering Mayor like is such a beautiful card, and the like framing, the color scheme like just looks so cool and looks so like that art style, like everything about that is so neat to me. I just, the moment I saw that card, I was so excited.
I really like the composition on this one too, because it's like you, the viewer, are looking up at Kumbal too, which is kind of exactly the position that he wants to have, as being the mayor of this town, is kind of lording it over everybody. Yeah,
he's so carefree as he's like looking over, you know, like lounging as he's looking over the town.
Yeah, the I own this town kind of look. Yeah, exactly. This is somebody who sleeps on a pile of money at night, right? Jeremy.
Also wanted to mention, because it's also one of those things, you know, not as special anymore because they do it every set, but the full art basics, having like that hidden,
negative
you know, that negative space thing. I really like the swamp. I know a lot of people kind of look at some of them, like the forest especially, and are just like, I don't see it, which is kind of an interesting thing. But I think overall these ones are really cool.
Mm-hmm. I'm a big fan. I like the negative space in this, and the mana symbols being negative space. It's such an interesting take on the full art land here. I like some of the ambitious things that they've done with the full art lands that didn't really connect in some of the previous sets, but this one really gives me throwbacks to the Theros, the Theros Beyond Death constellation lands, and gives me that same kind of vibe in there. They're some of my favorites, so there's no chance that I am not picking up dozens of copies of these full arts. I like them a lot. Awesome. We've had $450 in donations, everybody. Just a quick shout out to that, and we are continuing to climb. Thank you, everyone, for that. Let's keep this train rolling, as it were. So we talked about some of our favorite arts from the sets. How about some of the favorite cards from the set? What are you looking forward to playing with? And, for the commander heavy players, what are you looking forward to building around too? Is there anything that piques your interest there? And if there is anything that you want to shout out here from like a mechanic standpoint or a design standpoint, now is the time to do it. Nile, why don't we start with you? Any of your favorite cards from the set?
Yeah, I've got two. Surprise, surprise, they're both spree cards. My first one is 3 Steps Ahead. Oh, I am so in love with this card. I love having choices in blue. I love when all the choices are bullshit. And that's what this card is. It's so good and so satisfying to me. Love everything about it. My second one is Insatiable Avarice. It is a black card with spree. And I mean, this is like the epitome of like do some bullshit, tutor the draw. The fact that the draw is a target is very, very interesting. There's some really exciting potential combos with this card in standard. I love it. I think it's insanely powerful, and I think it's so cool that it's just a rare.
Yeah, it's interesting that tutor with set mechanic is going to be as available as it is. It's not a mythic. So
yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Bobbie, how about you? Any favorite cards from the set?
Yeah, I'm gonna green out. All right, I'm gonna keep greening out. Railway Brawler.
Yo, that was me.
That was your
my favorite
boy.
card. Let's go.
Oh.
Focus creatures. Oh, am I still here?
Yeah, there we go.
You're back. You're back.
Okay. I love Railway Brawler. I do in fact have a +1/+1 counter deck, and it does in fact have a lot of creatures in it. So I want to windmill slam this card. It also kind of in light of Elder Gargaroth, a 5-cost mythic green creature is just really going to hit home for me on a personal level. And as to continue to green out just a little bit, thank the Lord above and all these wonderful designers for Goldvein Hydra, because it's a healthy acknowledgement that Hydras kind of suck, and you know what? We should power creep them.
Yeah, for real. I am on the record saying that this might be one of the best 1 mana value creatures that we've ever seen. Okay, sure, you're going to be paying more than 1 mana for it, but this is one of those questing beasts. It has everything under the sun on it. Like,
perfect.
You try and remember how many keywords this card has. It's going to be one that I'm sure is going to be seen in a lot of formats. That's for sure. Any others, Bobbie?
You know what? I could just steal. I'm gonna steal the 3rd green mythic if no one stops me, because there's a legendary mythic cactus, man, Bristly Bill Spinesower. And he's life gain, so him and the Railway Rhino, I have a +1/+1 counter Arwen deck, and I'm just like, how quickly can I windmill slam both of these cards into my +1/+1 counter commander deck?
Nice. Yeah, love a good theme on those green mythics right there. Jeremy, how about you? Favorite cards from the set?
Yeah, so Goldvein Hydra was definitely one of mine. Love it. It's going into Zaxara as soon as I can. And the one from the Precon decks, Heartless Conscription, is one that I talked about this, like we previewed the deck here, and this is one of those that I was like, I've had Plague Wind and then In Garruk's Wake in that deck for a really long time, just because they're big dumb spells. I like them. I know there's more efficient stuff. Don't care. I think it's fun. This is going to go in that slot. I just think this is super fun. It does, gets rid of everything from their side, but I can just play it out. It's not necessarily the one-sided where I'm getting rid of everybody's else's and I'm keeping mine, but the ability to just keep playing all of their cards is super, super fun and very thematic with the Zexar Villainous Wealth deck, I think. And then the last one, I will admit that I have actually already played this, and this is the episode that's going to come out next week, but Obeka Splitter of Seconds was a lot of fun. I got to play that deck for our next episode that's coming out, and
nice.
Might end up building it because it was so much fun.
I'm personally putting it together because it looks like a lot of fun. I recently did an episode all about the math of how many upkeeps you need to win with which cards too, and it looks like a really interesting one. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Amazing. Clay, how about you? Some of your favorite cards from the set?
So starting with Yuma and Zakiri, like interchangeably doing like lands, deserts, plants. I, it could be my 5th Naya deck. I'm happy to do it. It won't upset me at all. It just seems really fun. And then just for like, I haven't decided if I'm actually going to build her or not, but Bonnie Paul seems like just such a fun, turn my brain off. I'm going to do Simic things. If you can stop me, cool. I don't care what you're doing. I'm going to keep putting lands into play and playing creatures whose power and toughness care about how many lands I control. And, it's going to be a good time. And who doesn't love a Babe the Blue Ox reference? Like that's cool. That's fun. It's flavorful. So like those are the 2 like commanders that I would probably like if I'm gonna build something. I've been tossing around the Gitrog like frog deck just to do a Yargle Multani thing one time, but I don't know. I don't play commander enough to like put the thought into building the deck to do the thing the one time. So I don't know. All of the joins up giving us, multiple more legendary enchantments kind of makes me even more want to do the Joda thing.
Mm-hmm.
and just be like, this is 5 color legends and like the silliest way. Just it's just bullshit. And then like, every once in a while you sit down with friends and you've got three other people have bullshit decks as well with them, and then you get to just do fun high-powered bullshit. Like Joda feels like the perfect deck for that. So I've got like a couple different versions, and the joins up feels like even better than the oaths that I had been toying around with before. So like and the fact like you got multiple colors, which makes it like harder, so it kind of slows you down a little bit. So if you're doing like high power but not like optimized, I don't know. Thinking about it.
Yeah. So some great picks in there for sure. I'm looking forward to you building some new decks, hopefully. Another Naya deck I think would be perfectly on theme for you too. So I just want to shout out a couple of my favorites from the set too. 3 Steps Ahead, as Nile mentioned, one of my favorites. It makes copies of things. I like anything that makes copies of things. Always going to be some of my favorites there. A lot of the big score cards are really good too. Molten Duplication along the same lines too, adding further redundancy for some of the same effects that we have, making temporary copies of things in red. I think that it's going to be another good one. But I also really like Transmutation Font, not to play into more stereotypes around me and my playstyle as well, but tap to make a food or clue is kind of exactly what I look for in any deck that runs Academy Manufactor, which to my credit is a lot of my decks. So
I can't help but notice you didn't name blood. Like, why did you only name clue or food?
nobody cares about blood until they release the next manufactor in Modern Horizons 3 that's coming out that makes like rock, blood, and junk tokens. Like if you make a blood token, create a junk and a food as well. They're going to come out with something weird like that. You know that it's going to be the case. But when that is the case, I'm going to take advantage of it like I always do. But we're going to see like a lot of these things. Like I'm even good on copying stuff and making token copies of stuff thanks to the big score, like substitute synthesizer as well. Like there's a lot of just really great fun cards that might not make a splash in competitive formats, but are definitely going to add fun things to do in casual formats and in Commander too, which is great. Ton of fun. So this is bringing us almost to the end tonight. for our roundtable. I do want to thank everybody in the audience and all of our panelists here. But what we're going to be doing is we're going to be taking a look at some of the audience questions that were asked, and then we're going to be doing our draws for our giveaway before we raid someone too. So be sure to stick around. We'll give all of our guests a chance to reintroduce themselves before we go. But we really only have one question this roundtable, which is interesting. But our friend Chris Thromaking also asks here: do we think an epilogue style set is justified for a single set, or does it make more natural sense after the Phyrexian War, where we were building to a climax over multiple sets? Should we do an epilogue to something like just Thunder Junction, or is it a 5 or 6 set cycle, like a year and a half, 2 years, that demands one of these epilogue style injections of cards into the format? What do we think about that? Jeremy, we'll start with you.
I like the idea of it being a capstone to a big arc. If they were to, continue to do it, it would be good there. As we saw with the fact that they tried to just put it into Outlaws of Thunder Junction, that was not the intention. It was just hey, whenever we feel like we're going to have it, that was going to be the thing. But I do think it makes more sense to have it be like, okay, well, we've gotten to the big conclusion battle, and now we're doing it as originally stated, an epilogue. This is, we're done with this arc. Here's this thing. But we also don't know how long arcs last in Magic anymore, because some of the arcs, keep creeping back. We're going to have more, Phyrexian stuff happening again. I'm sure we're going to, what happened with, if you've read the story, what happened with the Jace going through the Blind Eternities and randomly dropping, parts of the Phyrexian as they were going through, as him and, I think it was just him, or maybe it was him and Vraska were going through. Who knows? Yeah. Allison's was the only story I read, by the way. So I don't know the rest of it.
That's going to be Chekhov's Phyrexian body parts falling into the Blind Eternities.
Exactly. Right? So it's like, what's happening there? Is the oil getting in? Because like that's how it happened with Mirrodin originally, and just like, where are we going to go with those? Because like, as you said, like, we've got these new theme sets that are coming up a ton. We've got Bloomborough, we've got the Wacky Racers next year. We got the this and that. So what's this overall Omen Path arc going to lead to, and will it have enough that it needs a resolution?
Yeah, I think that's fair. And does this set wrap up the Kellen arc, for instance, that started with Wilds of Eldraine, went into Ixalan, and is now Outlaws of Thunder Junction? Is that what we're considering an arc these days? Just 3 sets? Who knows? We'll see. Nile, how do you feel about it? Do you feel like these are needed more often, or should they be applied few and far between after longer arcs?
I think flavorfully it's really cool to have, like, we've done a big arc. Here's like a little epilogue with, like wrapping things up or whatever. I think functionally it's proven to just be a nightmare for like a bunch of different reasons. Like I mentioned earlier, it makes this really awkward standard meta where, you're kind of like between sets, but not really. The booster pack opening experience is abysmal. It is very confusing for new players who are trying to understand what product to buy. Like, I can't imagine if I was like just getting into Magic and I was like, give me a pack of the newest set, and you gave me a pack of Aftermath, I'd be like, what the hell? I'm never buying one of these again. This is like 5 cards. Like,
right.
No shot, So like, I don't know. I think the concept is very cool. I think it's very flavorful. I don't know what would have to change execution-wise, but something would have to change execution-wise.
Fair. Jeremy?
I think in the same vein, and again, this is a set I'm going to eat up, but imagine handing someone an Assassin's Creed pack.
Yeah,
right.
Like, what, like what these are supposed to be. They're like, everybody's already talking about how awful these are supposed to be with like how expensive they are versus how many cards there are. Just like, here's this $6 like 8 card pack, and they're going to open it and be like, what?
And then you tell them how many cards are in a deck, and they're going to be like, wait, what?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Bobbie, how do you feel about this? Do you think these kind of epilogue sets should be saved for longer arcs?
If they're gonna work in a way that's not gonna make the player base like revolt or cringe, it's got to be like, I think the arcs are supposed to be 3 years. That's that from memory, from the top of my head. I think they're supposed to be about that long. I think they could work. I don't think they should. They soiled the brand. They shouldn't do epilogue boosters ever again, just like they shouldn't do mid-set jump start.
Yeah.
Ever again, in my opinion, in my harsh opinion.
Yeah. Hey, look, they're learning some good lessons from this. I think that there's a lot more that they could be learning from these as well, but we'll take the W where we can take the W, right? Awesome. And Clay, how do you feel? Do you think these epilogue sets should be set, say, for longer arcs, multi-year arcs, perhaps?
If the premise is that we are going to have them, then yes, I think it should be reserved for like multi-year like story arcs. I think in my ideal worlds, what we actually get is like another story series. So like you do 2 years, you do this overarching thing, you've got the story throughout, and then the last set comes out, and then like, I don't know, a month, 6 weeks later, give us another like 6 like episode series.
Mm-hmm.
What happened? Give us that epilogue, let people ride off into the sunset, whatever that looks like. But to Niall's point, I don't think that there's a way to do a small set unless it's like, hey, here is a 50 card product that you purchase and you're going to get 1 copy of each of the 50 cards. Like if it's just like a pre-con, effectively, like maybe they could do something like that, but I don't know how it would have to be priced to like justify people buying that, because there's going to be a bunch of cards in there that they don't want. I don't know that business side of it, but I like the idea of a story epilogue, not so much the like physical card one.
Awesome. So we have another couple of questions here from Crab Baskets just before we wrap up. First is, if you are going to draft this set, what archetype are you looking forward to drafting most? Niall, we'll throw this over to you first. Resident expert.
I don't know specifically which archetype. I know I'm very attracted to the red cards in this set for limited. One of the cards I'm most excited to draft is Prickly Pear. I think the name is great. I also think it's just like we keep proving set after set after set that play a guy, make a guy is very powerful. So I'm really into that. I really love cards like Quick Draw. I think the Cunning Coyote, like I know people don't love the Coyote Roadrunner. I think Coyote is like, you can put that in like your vintage cube. Like I think it is so good and so strong, and I think it's going to be awesome and limited. I'm just really excited to plot. I think plot is going to be really interesting and exciting and limited, but particularly with the red cards, I'm really, really excited to play those.
Very cool. Jeremy, anything draft archetype wise you're looking forward to, limited play?
I mean, I'm on brand, and I'm going to play Simic Doc Arlok plots. Like the second I see one of those, I'm just pivoting no matter what. It's going to be like, all right, let's go. See if we can get this plot to work off, because that's my kind of nonsense. I'm going to set a bunch of those cards aside and then try and get them all in one turn, and then probably end up at 0 life before I get to that turn.
We do love a 2 mana value commander legend around here too. So even if it's in limited, we do like building around those little legends for sure. Bobbie, how about you? Anything for draft or limited that you'd be looking forward to forcing?
Pipe dreams. I only have pipe dreams. Here's the pipe dream. You're gonna like this. You pull the Bruce Tarl, and you pull as many holy cows as you can imagine. We're going oxes, baby.
Nice. As many holy cows as go around the draft, right? Grab all of them. Oh, awesome. Clay, how about you? Anything that you'd grab in limited?
Well, since Bobbie's cutting me out on the ox, I don't know. Like, I think, unless I get some like bomb from one of the bonus sheets, I'm going my typical like limited route, which is like bodies and just continuing to put bodies on the board and forcing my opponent to deal with like creatures on curve. There's a lot of like really strong creatures, it feels like, and like going up the curve, I'm almost always in some version of Naya, Selesnya, Bant, like on that route. And like the big plant creatures are awesome. The different flyers in white are awesome. Like there's lots of cool removal. The what's the enchantment? High Noon. Like, oh, High Noon, and I'm just playing a creature each turn. Like that's awesome. That'd be so, like, I love doing that shit in limited. So yeah, no, that's where I'm going.
Nice. Jeremy?
So Bobbie-Christine's comment made me think of, I don't know if anybody in the audience or if anybody has also played any Disney Lorcana as well, but the not the most recent set, but the last set, I believe, had the 7 dwarves and had Snow White that made them cheaper, which was an uncommon. And that's definitely like pipe dream. I got Snow White. I got a second Snow White. I'm drafting all the dwarves. Let's go. And we did it.
Nice.
Amazing. Love getting handed an archetype in draft. That's for sure. And limited. And look, Chris has been able to pull up a
Amazing.
Lorcana card here too. I told you all he was a wizard here. Chris, can we get you to pull up Rise of the Varmints, though? Because Crab Basket's other question was, are you team Rise of the Varmints or are you team Spider Spawning?
Oh, it's tough.
So we'll go rapid fire around here. We'll get everybody's rapid fire answer. Clay, starting with you.
That is a trap and a trick question. You run both.
Fair. Bobbie, what do you think?
Ishkana is in my roots. I will go with Spider Spawning.
All right. Nile?
I want to plot. I'm going to give me the varmints.
Jeremy?
I have to go with Spider Spawning with nostalgia.
Amazing. All right. Well, so those are all of our questions. Let's pass things around one more time. Let's have everybody remind the audience who you are and where you're from, where we can find you. Oh, and we just passed $500 in donations. Everybody, just past 500. Look at that! Wow.
Thanks to Rocket Slug and Mashodam, ducking in right under the
amazing. Y'all out there in the audience are incredible. Thank you for helping absolutely smash some of our donation numbers here. But over 500 raised in 2 hours. Thank you so much, everybody. This is incredible. This means that we will be adding one more precon to the prize pool. Meaning, Chris, I'm going to get you to give me one more name in here before we rattle this off. But what we will do is we'll go around the horn one more time. Let everybody, let the audience know who you are and where you can be found. Then we'll name our winners and stick around because we will be rating Beth, Queen of Cardboard, after this too. So Nile, why don't we start with you? Why don't you remind everybody who you are and where we can find you?
Absolutely. Well, thanks for having me on the show. I had a great time. I am Nile, like the river, Nile Joan Rivers, everywhere you can find me. I stream Magic. I tweet about Magic. I mostly operate within the competitive scene, but I also do a fair amount of EDH stuff. I am a member of Birds of Paradise with Bobbie-Christine, and something that I've recently started doing is hosting open tournaments, and we're in the process of getting the next one set up. So stay tuned for that. They're very exciting. The last one was a lot of fun. That's me.
Fantastic. Bobbie-Christine, where can we find you?
You can find me everywhere at Bobbie-Christine. It's my name and it's also my handle. How convenient. I'll see y'all at Command Fest Dallas, DreamHack Dallas, and Command Fest Tacoma. Out here with Birds of Paradise, Magic Kids, and Top Deck Studios. It's an honor to be here. Keep an eye out on all these orgs because we have wonderful things coming in the future.
Amazing.
This year. And thank you so much for having me.
Awesome. Thank you for coming out once again. Jeremy, for your first time out, thank you for coming out. Why don't you remind everybody who you are and where we can find you?
Yeah, thanks for having me. Yeah, Jeremy Noell, and you can find most of my socials under at Jeremy Noell. Instagram's at Jeremy Noell MTG, though I don't post there often. But yeah, you can also find me on Commander Versus on the Star City Games Commander channel, and various other social stuff on the Star City Games socials as well. Yeah, and I should hopefully be attending at least one day of SCG Con Richmond, which is coming up here in May the 4th. And then, yep. And then my goal is to also attend SCG Con Washington, D.C. in October and MC Vegas in October if I can. That is currently the plan. We'll see what life throws at us as we get closer.
Amazing. And Clay, last but not least, let us know who you are and where we can find you.
Hi, friends. I'm Claybee. I'm part of the C&C Power Hour. Obviously, like the channel here hosting, along with Chris doing these roundtables each time. You can find me if you search Claybee on any social media platform. You will find me there, posting pictures of my animals, talking about Risen Reef, and otherwise generally yelling about whatever's happening in my day-to-day life. I wanted to real quick say thank you to everybody in chat and thank you to our guests. These are always the highlight. Like I know that a lot of people go through product fatigue, but I get so excited every time a new set's coming out because it means I get to do one of these again. And that's just like, that's the best part of every set. And I like ride it through like the first month as I just think about like what we got to do and getting to talk about it and getting to be a part of this. So thank you to everybody for joining us.
Amazing. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you to our panel. Thank you to our audience. Y'all have been great. Again, smashed our numbers, hit over 500 in donations for the Trevor Project tonight. We do have some winners, but first, of course, I am your moderator. As always for these, I am Chris and I am your Commander Mechanic. Find me everywhere content is made. Look for the orange wrench because that's me. Now, congratulations to our winners here. I love the hat in this profile card, by the way, the little dinky cowboy hat. Absolutely love it. It's great.
It's because I asked for a hat. It's just so you know, because when they put up the preview, or they sent me the preview for my preview card, like the bee, I was like, can the bee have a hat? And then
yeah,
so they went and found them.
It's fantastic, absolutely fantastic. So if you stuck around here till the end, we do have winners to announce. The winner of our Infinitokens prize pack is Filthy Casuals Jen. Congratulations. The winner of our first Commander Precon, please make sure to reach out to Chris at C&C Power Hour with your details about this. But the winner of our first Precon is Oath of Moment. Thank you very much, Oath of Moment. Our second Precon winner is Assy, A-S-Y, AC. I don't want to call you Assy if it's not pronounced Assy, but that's what it looks like. Sensitive Joy is the winner of our third Commander Precon on this one. Congratulations. And the one that was just added to the pool for crossing $500 goes to Flavor Pro Matt. Congratulations, everyone, for coming out and donating. Thank you, everyone who has been here, who has watched the entire time, who has donated, and our panel for your time here. This has been amazing again. Please stick around because we are going to raid Beth, Queen of Cardboard, right now. So hang on, we're heading there as we speak. And as always, folks, thank you, good luck, and have fun. We'll see you for the next set too. Yeehaw!